Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, Hudco can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Healy have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call Hudco Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd.
At the Ochsner Medical Complex at The Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown, presented by Ochsner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com.
All right.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you.
Pop, pop.
What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Excited to be here. Let's go for 2 hours until 3 o'clock. Preston Guy of TigerBait.com going to jump on in 15 minutes to talk LSU football. D1 baseball put out its first field of 64 that I have any remote interest in. I can't dive too far into RPIs in March. I can't get into projections of the NCAA tournament in March, but we're pushing May here, and half these conference schedules in the rearview mirror, so I do want to talk about that a little bit. 2 SEC series crank up tonight. We'll talk about that a little bit. A lot of spring football to get to, and we'll also chat with Joe Healy of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team in his normal 2:15 Thursday spot. So plenty to get to here, and I'll give you some updates from the Zurich as play continues over there, as you would expect. It's a birdie fest in the best ball Thursday, but the weather looks awesome. I've watched a little bit of the stream this morning, just kind of get a feel for it, and the course looks great for those of us down here in South Louisiana who have played it. We don't have gorgeous oceanfront view golf courses. We don't have a lot of topography and land movement down here, but the course looks to be in fantastic shape, and I'm excited to get down there coming up this weekend, and I'll give you updates as we move forward. But we're going to start with LSU football as we move forward toward the spring game. And if you were listening to Handegriff's show in the slot here beforehand, Mike Scarborough came on in the middle of the show and said, look, most spring games are pretty boring. This one might be the most boring. And this spring has, quite frankly, been pretty boring in terms of news and content for us to deliver to you. I think they're getting good work done out there. They've stayed healthy for most of the spring. It hasn't been a bad thing for the program, just in terms of digesting content on this end. There's just not a lot coming out. We're going in for 20 minutes. They're running through some cones. They're hitting some sleds. They're moving on. And that's okay. That's okay for them to get some work in the spring and for us not to have a bunch of juicy stuff to gnaw on. But I did want to start today just talking about the quarterback situation. And Brian Kelly met with the media this morning and talked about both guys. This is what he had to say about Jaden Daniels.
He's over 210 pounds. He's thicker. He's stronger. This is much more about veteran presence now than acclimating to a new program. I think that's really the difference here. So now you've got a guy that's helping the freshman tight ends, listen, sit down on this route. Don't drag, sit down. I'll get you the football. Those kind of nuances. So it's harder sometimes to explain it, but you can kind of sense it and see it just by his interactions with, Malik in terms of where he wants the football and, how he is just addressing the offensive line when he's making calls. There's just a different presence to him.
And that's all great. He's taking a leadership role. He had an opportunity to explore pro football, decided to come back, wants to play another year in Baton Rouge. And I think we talked so much about LSU's quarterback spot last year and the things that were positive and the things that were negative. And it was kind of a divisive issue between, I think, a lot of LSU fans as to the quality of Jaden Daniels' play. And I would suggest this. We have some fun on this show with my predictions, prognostications, betting picks, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm on the money. Sometimes I'm a million miles off. That's the nature of this thing, and that's what makes it fun at times. I did have a segment back in the fall of 2019 when I was hosting Charlie's show, Sports Today, in the middle of the day before camp started. And I remember doing this, and it was, obviously turned out far better than I could have even anticipated. But I said, entering the 2019 season, after 2018 Joe Burrow, who was a good quarterback, he was much better late in the season than he was early, as you would expect for a guy who got here that late and trying to learn a new system and new teammates and had never really been a starting quarterback or really played at all at the college level. But he played well down the stretch. He played well against Texas A&M in that crazy one, and he played well after he got his block knocked off in Fiesta Bowl. And I made the point, I said, look, this is as good as you could have felt about an LSU quarterback entering a season in a very, very long time. Yeah, Mettenberger had a great 2013 season, but 2012, they couldn't score at Auburn. They couldn't score at Florida. They weren't great throwing the football. So, was there a ceiling there? Was it an upside? Sure, but it hadn't happened. Jamarcus's 06 season was unbelievable. In 2005, he was okay. So, Burrow had been more established than those two guys. Matt Mock, before the 2003 season, was a scrambling quarterback who broke his foot at Florida. Matt Flynn, before the 07 season, was the backup. Yeah, there have been great quarterback seasons in LSU history, in recent history, but I don't know that you could have anticipated them until you saw that Burrow was kind of getting it figured out. And no, I did not expect him to throw 60 touchdowns, 6 picks, go 15-0, the greatest team in history, and win the Heisman. No, I did not expect that. But I said, I feel really good about the quarterback LSU is bringing back here, and that hasn't always been the case. Well, if we sit back and realize what we're looking at here with Jaden Daniels, a guy who just completed 67% of his throws for just about 3,000 yards and was LSU's leading rusher and as dynamic a quarterback runner as there was in the SEC last year, objectively, you have to come to the realization here that LSU's got a really good quarterback coming back. Like a really good one. Is he perfect? No. Can he get better at some things that he didn't do as well last year? Yes. Do I think he's going to be the first pick in the draft? No. Do I think LSU could be a really good offense with him at the helm? Yes. And so over these years, there's always been he could be good. They got some talent. This quarterback, you know what you got at quarterback right now, and it's good. And that should make you feel good. And we don't even have to get into a debate. It's April. So let's not get all heated about, he didn't look down the field. They didn't stretch the field. He's too timid with the ball. He runs too much. We don't have to do that in April. We can do that in August. If I can sit here in April and pull it back and remove emotion from the entire thing because they don't play a game that counts for 4 months, and I can just look at it and say, man, they got a good quarterback. Wait until you listen to all the shows in August. Wait until you hear SEC Media Day in July. Wait till you hear national people who aren't in our bubble talk about LSU's quarterback and their offense. They will all say, this guy can play. He's really good. He needs to get better, but he's very, very good. It is among the best I have felt about an LSU quarterback entering the season in 25 years. That's not hyperbole. It's really not. Go back and look. it's as good as you could have felt about a quarterback entering a season in 25 years. That doesn't guarantee he's going to be as good as some of the guys have been over the last 25 years. But in terms of proven stuff coming back, it's really, really good. And oh, by the way, the guy they got backing him up has some meaningful reps. And Brian Kelly talked about him today.
He's gotten a lot of work with the first team, and when he's been in with that first group, he's excelled. And again, I think that all you can do is make sure that when they're given the opportunity, it's fair. And we couldn't give him a fair chance if he was just running with an offensive line that has really 3 guys that we moved over, from other positions. So he had to get a lot of that work with the first team. And I think he excelled as well. So I think all we've done is built the quarterback position up, that we have 2 really, really good quarterbacks.
And that's the point, because I've often had preseason discussions with fans or listeners to the show or friends or family members or whoever just talking LSU football, and you hear, well, if the quarterback gets hurt. And I would counter by saying, most teams are in big trouble if their starting quarterback gets hurt. Most of them. It's very rare in college football or the NFL, even in high school, your quarterback gets hurt and you don't really take a significant hit. That's very rare. I think in LSU's case, the offense has to change a little bit, but there's probably a good segment of you, the fan base, that if Jaden Daniels got dinged up in the second quarter against Florida State, you wouldn't be petrified to put Garrett Nussmeier in there to run the offense, right? If you were playing Mississippi State or Auburn and you had to go to Nussmeier early in the third, a lot of times that would feel really bad going to a backup quarterback. It doesn't feel as bad this time around, and that's a great position to be in. And even in this day and age in college football, that's almost impossible to have a third-year player who's a backup that's got experience and talent. Usually, if you've got a talented backup, he's in his first year because he would have transferred out if he was a backup any later. If you've got a third-year backup, well, yeah, he's got experience, but is he any good? Is there a reason he hasn't transferred to go start somewhere else? Garrett Nussmeier could start a lot of places. And he's ready to roll if Jaden Daniels goes down. And we know that Jaden Daniels has gained some weight. We also know he's going to run a lot and he's going to take some hits. And you may need a backup quarterback like you did last year. So as we step back, and we're not in a spot right this second in April to, heavily debate issues with the LSU football team. It's more of a 30,000-foot view, and okay, what does this kind of look like? You'd be really forcing the issue if you tried to come to me and say, hey, I don't love where we are at quarterback. You'd really be pushing the issue. I think LSU is in a great spot at quarterback relative to the rest of the conference, relative to the rest of the country, relative to just winning championships. I think they're in a really good spot. I think Jaden Daniels is an excellent player who has room to improve and very well may have done that over the last 5 months, and he's got 4 more to go. I think Garrett Nussmeier's got an incredible future, and it may turn into the present at a given point, and you've got to feel really, really good about that. Our Citizens Bank and Trust poll question of the day: how do you feel about LSU's quarterback situation entering the 2023 season? Excellent, good, and what should be the detractor? Should say not great. We'll go with that. How do you feel about LSU's quarterback situation entering the 2023 season? We'll go with that for the Citizens Bank and Trust poll question of the day. We'll let that sit there for an hour and 45 minutes. We'll get to it at the end of the show. Let's take a timeout. TigerBait.com's Preston Guy is going to join us when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further. like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $15,000 off all new 2022 1500 SCA trucks. And all new Bayou automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Healy have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Jimmy out at Charles Hanniger for the Thursday edition of Game Time. It's live from Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday from Jolie Pearl downtown facing Town Square. Game Time on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Working towards the weekend, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Talking some spring football, Tigers spring game on Saturday. Joe Burrow going to be there, which is some big news. Probably more important than the actual football that's going to be played, quite frankly. Preston Guy will be there. He covers the LSU football beat for TigerBait.com. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Preston, thanks for the time. How are you?
You know, it's funny you mentioned Joe Burrow coming in. I just remember doing the spring game. Must have been last spring game. Joe Burrow also came and it was like half our prep for the game was trying to get that shot of Joe Burrow. It was almost, you're right, it's almost more important than the game because we'll get more YouTube views of him walking down the tunnel than, post-game interviews or our story, anything else.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, it's just he's larger than life down here. I just did a segment on the LSU quarterback situation moving into next year, and I know that there were a lot of people that were a little uncomfortable with the way that Jaden Daniels played the position for some of last year, a little timid, running a little bit more than pushing the ball down the field. But as I sit back and take emotion out of it here in April before we get into August and September, LSU, I think, is in just an awesome spot in this day and age of college football with two quarterbacks who can play. Your thoughts on that position as a whole?
Well, you've got your quarterback one, despite his flaws. He's going to have some Heisman buzz, some like black horse type Heisman buzz around him because his stats were simply very good last year, and he led a 10-win season. And yes, us as LSU fans, we've had a really front seat look to, it's frustrating to see him hold on to the ball too long at times or miss open receivers or have a few accuracy issues. But, the thing is there's very few quarterbacks who are truly doing those things perfectly every single time. I think a year in the system, he's going to be a lot more comfortable. Having a full year of Brian Kelly coaching him under his belt and a lot of continuity. I think the offensive line should be a lot improved going into next year, and you should have a lot more depth there, which will also help him as a player. And as a runner, he's one of the best runners in the country at the position. So I think we'll look up at the end of the season, and Jaden Daniels is going to end up being one of the top handful of quarterbacks around, certainly top, 4 in the SEC or so. And then behind him, I have to expect Nussmeier. I haven't done a true evaluation of the backup quarterbacks in the SEC. I have to imagine Nussmeier is going to be one of the best backup quarterbacks in the SEC. So, and then you've got a talented true freshman sitting behind both of them. So, I mean, you're really sitting pretty right now, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I would go Max Johnson and Walker Howard because they were here, and I think those guys are backup quarterbacks. I don't know that Jackson Dart will stick around up there in Oxford, and I can't really tell you much outside of that with backup quarterbacks. Maybe TJ Finley. Just going with all former LSU quarterbacks are backing up everywhere around the conference.
I hear you, but I think I'm probably taking Nussmeier and his experience over all those guys.
No,
maybe Max Johnson. Maybe Max Johnson. I'll give him that.
And so, do you think? First of all, let's start with Jaden Daniels. Do you expect significant improvement in his passing game this season, or do we think just more of what we saw, which was good last year?
I think we're going to see significant improvement on his ability to be aggressive and push the ball downfield. That's something that you can coach and should improve over time. I think he'll be a little more decisive. I'm looking forward to seeing that in the spring game, and I think he's going to be a little more aggressive pushing the ball downfield, less, do a few less checkdowns. I mean, and really push the ball vertically, which will open up the running game as well. That I expect to see. I think that there's a few accuracy issues and mechanic issues. Those are a little tougher to fix. You don't just see guys overnight not lean in or do the little mechanical things that they just do when they throw the ball. I think we're always going to see him struggle a little bit with accuracy on some passes. He's going to throw a few ducks every once in a while. It's not going to be anything that cripples the offense. And I think he's always going to be better with the underneath stuff rather than putting some air under the ball and letting it fall into a hole. I think that's just kind of, he is who he is with that. But on his decision-making, he definitely can and should improve. And I'm also hoping, he liked to tuck and run a lot last year. And the hope is that he's a little more patient in the pocket as his offensive line improves and finds guys downfield rather than trying to make it happen on his legs.
Yeah, it's a weapon to be able to outrun literally everyone in the front seven that you're playing against. But if you do that, you take the ball out of your wide receiver's hands for some potentially bigger plays for sure. It's fun to play hypotheticals in April, so let's do it. Do you think there's a possibility that Garrett Nussmeier is brought into a game in the fall to create a spark, not injury related, just, hey, we want to see a different look?
That he's rotated in a game that I don't personally see that. I think Nussmeier, I think they're going to do some things to be happy. I think they're going to try to put him in the game maybe a little sooner than they would have, but I imagine that it'll be Jaden Daniels' offense this year.
Deshaun Womack has put some pads on here in the last week and a half. I don't think we'll see much of him this weekend as he's coming off that injury, but what do you think his role is on the defense as a freshman? We know he's put on a significant amount of weight here in the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, what we see a lot of times with young, talented freshmen, they really just want them to get after the quarterback. And I think that that's going to be the role they rotate him in. Brian Kelly talked about him and Mason Smith actually both getting out there for practice for the first time. He really kind of told us, like, hey, guys, don't expect anything fancy this spring because the real goal is not to get hurt. And he's right. That's the number one goal of spring football. Keep your team healthy, get your reps, but don't risk getting a dude hurt just to see some extra practice reps in the middle of April. That's not going to help your team nearly as much as keeping them healthy. Deshaun Womack will be interesting to see because he's going to be rotating. You know, there's a lot of transfer portal guys he's going to be competing with for reps, and seeing if he gets on the field. You know, and then there's Savion Smith. Savion Jones, who just looks like every part of having a breakout season this season. I think he's going to be a monster to stop.
That'll be something I talk about a lot in August. They need somebody to develop as an elite level pass rusher outside of Perkins, who's got some other jobs, and Jones is candidate number one for that for sure. I got asked on a Shreveport radio hit yesterday, anything you're specifically looking for in the spring game? And I was pretty candid. I was like, not really. And I started racking my brain about things that you could see in that setting that may go, okay. And I feel like Trey Holly's going to get the ball some at least, and they're going to have to try to tackle him. He's gotten a lot of reps in the spring. Is he going to have an opportunity to be a guy on this offense that gives him a few carries?
Oh, well, I mean, certainly. He's got all the talent. There's been a learning curve this spring. I've been out there a few times, and one practice, Frank Wilson was really in his ear about giving full effort in a drill, and another one, coaches were in his ear because he had fumbled on a drill where they're punching out the ball. There's a learning curve. That running back is one of the easier positions to get a guy out there. Particularly, you know, if John Emery doesn't suit up in the fall, which, I mean, I told you last time I was on, you can't really rely on him for anything at this point, then you would almost certainly see some carries from Trey Holly in the fall. But we're going to get a big dose of him in the spring game. He'll be out there probably for the second team. We'll see how they divvy it up. But we're going to get a lot of him, and I expect he'll flash some talent. He's a short, stocky guy with some really good moves. I think he'll be fun to watch, much more fun. Noah Cain's a big bruising back. You know, those guys aren't as fun to watch in a spring game. They might pummel in for a 2-yard touchdown or, you know, they're good backs, but I think Trey Holly will be the one that's really, really fun to watch. What I'm watching for in the spring game is how efficient is that offense. You really, you know, you can see it can be a precursor to something special happening in the fall. If you look at that offense in the spring game, and they are just clicking on all cylinders, all the dudes are in their place, and they're pushing the ball downfield, that can be a precursor for a lot of success in the fall. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, is how smooth is the offense.
What about Chris Hilton's role moving forward? It's a guy that's missed a lot of time due to injury. There's a lot of talented dudes in that wide receiver room, but he can run.
Yeah, he certainly can. I mean, there's a lot of guys, though, he's going to be competing with. I think your two top receivers, no doubt, are going to be Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, right? And it looks like for that third receiver role, I mean, he's been out there and he's been looking good. I'm really interested to see how he looks in the spring game. You know, there's a lot of other guys, and Aaron Anderson, when he gets back, are they going to be looking at him as, you know, a special teams return kick kind of guy, or they really want to crack him in the lineup? It'll be interesting. And then Kyron Lacey's a guy they really like as well. I would say at this point he's right behind Kyron Lacey, and I think they're going to, outside of those top two receivers, they're really going to rotate a lot of guys to see who sticks best, and Chris Hilton's going to have an opportunity to you know, make his name in this offense.
Preston, we appreciate the time. Enjoy some football on Saturday.
Hey, I'm excited about it, Hunt. See you then.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, talking some football. He's a football guy. There are football guys. Taylor Sharp, who's done some producing on this show, football guy. Hester, he's a football guy. I don't think you could classify me as a football guy necessarily. I got my eye on baseball this weekend. I've got my eye on the Zurich, and I'm certainly going to pay a little attention to the spring game as well. But you talk about Preston, you talk football, guys' eyes the guy loves talking some ball, so he'll certainly be out there Saturday with the cast of thousands, and I think probably most of them more excited to see Joe Burrow than some scrimmage action. But hey, that's just any way you can get him out there, I guess. Look at the leaderboard over at the Zurich down in Avondale. Keith Mitchell and Sunjay M shot a 10 under, best ball 62. They lead with two other teams. Matt Fitzpatrick and little brother Alex lead at 62. I talked about that yesterday. It's such an odd thing because Matt Fitzpatrick's a top 15 player in the world and a major champion. He won the U.S. Open last year, but Alex is trying to find his way on the smaller tours. Well, he gets an exemption to play with Big Bro in this tournament, and if they win, he gets a 2-year exemption to the PGA Tour. Now, they got a long way to go. They got to play alternate shot tomorrow, and Big Bro can't quite help you as much in that instance, but I just saw one where Matt Fitzpatrick hit it in the water today, and Alex Fitzpatrick made a birdie on that hole to ham and egg it a little bit. So that's an interesting story to watch. A guy who does not have status on the PGA Tour potentially in the lead going into a weekend. David Lipsky and Aaron Ray also shot 10 under. One of the teams I gave you in a gambling pick yesterday, Justin Suh and Sahith Thagala, they shot 9 under 63 this morning. The conditions are perfect down there in Avondale. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit rough in terms of rain. We'll just have to get golf in when they can, and then Saturday and Sunday look pretty good. Can't wait to get down there and watch a little PGA Tour action. So I'll give you an update on the leaderboard as we move along here in the show. When we come back, D1 Baseball gave their regional projections for this week. Again, it's about time we can start kind of kicking that around a little bit, so we'll do that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The NBA playoffs are here, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN right now and place a $5 bet, and you'll get an instant $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel's got great promotions every single day. It's safe, it's secure, and the best part about FanDuel, when you win, you get paid instantly. Just transfer that money, boom, it's headed your direction. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN and sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet your first $5. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. Bonus issues, knowledgeable bonus bet that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you're someone who has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $15,000 off all new 2022 1500 SCA trucks. And all new Bayou automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd.
At the Ochsner Medical Complex at the Grove, we've got cooking teams of pros and joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks, Jambalaya Showdown, presented by Ochsner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com. All right.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like Vans customized.
Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers wrap up spring practice with the 2023 National L Club Spring Game. Our coverage starts Saturday at 1 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here on this Thursday. Thanks for hanging out, Hunt Palmer Show. We're getting close to the weekend, folks. Just about taste it. D1 Baseball came out with its first, well, I don't know if it's his first one or not. It's the first one I've looked at, the field of 64. They may have been doing it for a couple of weeks, but I can't pay attention to that until you turn the corner in SEC play. And now they have, so it's okay to start browsing briefly at RPI and then start kind of looking at where things shape up. And as you would imagine, the Southeastern Conference is looked upon exceptionally favorably by the D1 baseball crew, as well as the RPI. I talked a lot right before conference play started, because now you're just playing one midweek game that's a non-conference a week, and you're not going to do a ton to sway the statistics. But the SEC, as of the start of conference play, was winning about 80% of its non-conference games, which is an excellent, excellent record. To win 80% of baseball games is very, very strong. So the SEC's strength of record is going to be very strong. The conference RPI is going to be first. The SEC took care of its business in February and March before they got into conference play, and now you just go try to beat each other up and jockey for seeding and positioning as best you can. And so the SEC looked upon very favorably by D1 baseball, as you would imagine. LSU is the #1 overall national seed in these projections. Vanderbilt is 3. Arkansas is 4. South Carolina is 5. Florida is 7. That would be 5 top 8 national seeds. And then you bring in Kentucky at 10. So you would have 6 host sites from the Southeastern Conference. That's loud. And when you look at that group, LSU has taken a series from Arkansas. They have split with South Carolina on the road, and they have taken a series from Kentucky of the teams that they've got hosting right now. LSU has 10 Quadrant 1 wins. Right now, that is 7th best in the country. Most of the games LSU will play from here on out will count as Quadrant 1 wins. I didn't check on Ole Miss. I can do that right now. The Rebels' RPI to this point is, as I keep scrolling, it's not very good unless I just missed them. It's probably something I should have checked on, but they're not this low. They're not going to be in the top 50. They're 50. They're right on the number. So Ole Miss not going to take a big RPI hit this weekend as they play LSU's RPI is 4. So not going to take a big RPI hit playing 3 games against number 4. And if you can win 2 of them, then all of a sudden your RPI is really going to move up. Southern ULL moved up double-digit spots when they beat LSU in 1 game on the road earlier this week. So, look, most of the games you're going to play, Ole Miss is still in Quad 1, and they're 3-12 in the league. That should tell you just how easy it is for LSU to amass Quadrant 1 wins. The non-conference wasn't great. They played 10 Quad 4s, which is not what you're looking for. Quad 4 is 151 plus. So that's not exactly where you want to be. But it's LSU's obviously in a very, very good spot. The rest of the conference, as you look at it, Mississippi State in as a 3 seed, Bama in as a 3 seed, A&M in as a 2 seed, and Tennessee in as a 3 seed. There's a long way to go, but I think what you can draw from this point right now in this schedule, when you look up here on April the 20th, you can say, okay, LSU's RPI is in a great spot at number 4. They've got some quality series win already socked away. You've really taken care of your business in the non-conference and not slipped up. Your losses to Iowa and Louisiana Lafayette are not going to hurt you at all. And the conference is looked at as very, very strong. And your remaining schedule, while it's going to look decent in the metrics with a lot of quad 2s and a lot of quad 1s, isn't as daunting as it could be with if you had to play Vanderbilt, Arkansas, South Carolina, Florida. Any of those, you don't have to do that. That's common knowledge now that everyone's aware that, look, LSU's schedule is looking relatively soft moving forward. And it's not worth the trouble of going through every team's RPI right now and then categorizing where they might be, because they just got too many games left to play. You still got to play 15 league games and 3 or 4 more non-conference games plus conference tournaments and whatnot. So the key is LSU is in really good shape. I believe this, and this is not necessarily tied to the D1 baseball projections in any way, but I believe this. It'll surprise me, quite frankly, if LSU doesn't lose a conference weekend. That will surprise me. You go 9-0-1 because you got the split with South Carolina, I'll be pretty floored. That's really difficult to do. We know it can be done. Arkansas did it 2 years ago. But the elite of the elite lose series. Last year, Tennessee lost to Kentucky. LSU had a great team in 2013 that only lost one weekend in conference, and I think it was to a mediocre South Carolina team. They weren't very good in 2013. So it's really hard to keep it together for 10 weekends and not have one where it kind of gets away from you. LSU has played some rubber games. They've played against Arkansas. They lose game 1, come back and sweep a doubleheader. They've played some games in game 3s that they needed to win series, and they've gotten it done when they had to. And the point I'm getting to is that LSU has put itself in a position where you've got some leeway. If you go lose a series on the road to Ole Miss, it's not going to cripple you. If you come home and lose a weekend to some kind of Alabama or Mississippi State, it's not going to cripple you. It's just not. And so that's a good spot to be in. It's an admirable spot to be in. And I'll be quite frank, as I look at the country top to bottom, specifically at the top, there's no one I look at and they just terrify me, and you've got to try to avoid them at all costs. That doesn't exist here. So the point of that would be LSU needs to find a way to be in the top 8. I don't care if they're 1. I don't care if they're 8. 1 and 8 are the same to me. Means you get a home super if you can get there, and it means the road to Omaha goes through your stadium. Last year, you could have looked at it and been a little bit shy about playing Tennessee. That's not a team you wanted to look at. Well, at this point, who looks like that? Nobody. Everybody's got some questions. Florida's got a little bit of a question in the back end of their rotation. Florida's got some issues at times in the bullpen. They flared more often in the midweek than not. And so there's not a team that looks head and shoulder above that I'm looking and going, okay, kind of like to avoid them. Wake's really good. That's fine. But they just need to get in the top 8. And LSU right now has some room to play with 5 weekends to go against teams they should be able to beat more often than not. So grand scheme, big picture, LSU in good shape right now, as you would expect, and has given themselves the opportunity to maybe try to figure some things out, specifically with the pitching side of thing, and then on the offense with some injuries. You gotta get Dugas back. You gotta see if Kling can return. You gotta get Brady Neal back in some capacity. So LSU's not whole right now. They've got some pitchers on the mend. I mean, we figure Coleman and Ackenhausen are going to factor in, even if the guys who have arm issues are not going to factor in. Those two on the pitching side will. And then you got 3 injuries in your everyday lineup. So LSU's banged up, got some work to do, but they've got plenty of real estate to get that done, a little wiggle room to get that done as we sit here today on the 20th of April. 1 week away is the NFL Draft. Join us Thursday, April 27th. That's a week from today at 7 o'clock for the Rouse's ESPN Baton Rouge Draft Party live from Don Juan's Cigar Bar and exclusively on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Our whole team's going to be there. Going to be enjoying our time at Don Juan. We're going to be watching the picks, reacting to the trades, the whole lot. So we want y'all to come out to Don Juan at 7 o'clock and join us, hang out, chat with the whole staff. Only 2 or 3 of us are going to be on the headsets at a given time. We'll be just hanging out in the bar the rest of the time, so I want y'all to come out and hang. If you can't, check us out on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. So shout out to Rouse's for sponsoring the draft party. Shout out to Don Juan for hosting us a week from tonight, 7 o'clock, over at Don Juan for our draft party. We'll come back. I'll get you set up for the SEC weekend, SEC night in college baseball. Still a lot to get to in hour number 2. Going to open things up, talking a little wide receiver play with LSU. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra package is coming on at 2:15. So loads to get to on this Thursday. Come back with us on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has $2,000 off MSRP plus 2.9% APR for 84 months on new 22 Ford Expeditions. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Each year, Guarantee Media hosts a radiothon to benefit Dreams Come True, the local organization that grants dreams to Louisiana kids suffering life-threatening illnesses and their families. We've interviewed these incredible kids, and their stories warm our hearts. And none of it would be possible without your help. So we're asking for your support in our effort to making more dreams come true. Each year, our Dreams Come True radiothon is powered by the Baton Rouge Clinic. Visit GuaranteeMedia.com to pledge your support today, and thank you.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Healy have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd.
At the Ochsner Medical Complex at The Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown presented by Ochsner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com.
All right.
On Fridays, OTB. Give you a little Ole Miss scouting report as Jay Johnson's Tigers head to Oxford. Plus, one more day before the spring game. What should you be watching for? Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, two SEC series crank up tonight in college baseball, and they're interesting for different reasons. The first one is Florida and South Carolina. This one's interesting because these are teams that figure to be in the mix for the Southeastern Conference Championship. These two teams have gotten off to excellent starts. Florida's 11-4, South Carolina's 10-4, missing a game. They're both right on Vanderbilt's heels there, as the Doors are 13-2 with a very difficult schedule looming. Now, Vanderbilt took 2 of 3 from South Carolina, and so, we've already played one of those weekends, but these two teams are in really, really good position. And tonight's pitching matchup features two guys with elite-level stuff. Brandon Sproat is a guy we've talked about from Florida a lot. He struck out 69 in 49 innings of work. His outing against Alabama was some of the best stuff I've seen all year. But then you've got outings where he just can't seem to find the strike zone and gets hit when he falls behind in counts. So that's a guy that is going to have to keep the ball down because South Carolina is a bastion club. And you saw them. They ambushed Skeens for 2 homers in 3 innings. And look, Petrie has 18 home runs already. He's flown by Justin Smoke's freshman record, and he's probably going to challenge Tommy White's record of 27 as the season goes on. He is... Joe Healy compared him to Chris Bryant a couple of weeks ago after we saw him in Columbia. He's awesome, and that's a guy that Florida's going to have to deal with. On the flip side, Will Sanders is going to get the ball. We saw Will Sanders for 3 innings in that first game against South Carolina, and he's big. He throws hard. He's got pretty good stuff, and he's really emotional. And Sproat can be that too. So tonight figures to be some fireworks. This is going to be a really good environment in Columbia. These are two guys that are really geeked up, and they get fired up, and it's a big game to take control of this series. And you got Caglione hitting home runs all over the yard for Florida. You got Petrie hitting home runs and Casas hitting home runs all over the place for South Carolina. This is going to be a really, really high-level baseball game, and the winner of this series is going to be nipping on Vanderbilt's heels once again to win the Southeastern Conference East and even the division. And these teams are trying to play their way to a super regional host type situation, and this is a big weekend for them, so I'm excited to see what we'll see from those two teams. The other game doesn't look as competitive, but it matters to us here in Baton Rouge. Arkansas is at Georgia, and we know that Arkansas has a 2.5 game lead on LSU, a 1.5 game lead on LSU, and LSU holds the tiebreaker over the Hogs. It's always going to be a little bit interesting because LSU's missing a game, but Arkansas is 11-4 through 15, and LSU is 9-5. So, you're pulling for Georgia here if you're LSU. You want to knock Arkansas down a peg. You want to try to win the West, and you want to try to win the conference, and Arkansas is in your way. Hunter Holland has been really amazing this year when I didn't think that was necessarily going to be the case. He threw that first weekend against Auburn when they decided to move Hagen Smith to the bullpen, and he was pretty good. 6 innings of 2-run baseball, but he gave up 6 hits against an Auburn team I don't have a ton of respect for, so I didn't think much of it when they came to Baton Rouge, and Hunter Holland came into Baton Rouge, and he threw 5 1/3 innings of 3-hit shutout baseball against a really good lineup. And then they went to Hagen Smith, who was great until Brady Neal hit the home run off him, and then we know that Arkansas in that game scored 8 runs in the 10th inning. But he was really good against LSU. Then he had the hiccup against Bama where he gave up 7 earned runs on 10 hits. And I'm going, okay, does this guy turn into a pumpkin? Well, no, because he went to Ole Miss and threw 6 shutout innings and then played Tennessee and threw 6 more innings where he gave up 1 earned run. So he's good. And he is becoming their Friday night guy, which has allowed them the flexibility to move Hagen Smith around. So I'm curious to see him. Colton Smith is going to go for Georgia, and surprise, surprise, he's not very good. He's pitched in 2 SEC games this year. His season long in innings pitched is 3 1/3. That's the pitching situation that Georgia is in right now. They're going out there in game 1 of a series with a guy whose long appearance of the year is 3 1/3 innings, and we're at the end of April. They just don't have very much. And LSU will be in Athens at the end of the year, so if Georgia's going to win, they're going to have to hit. And Arkansas just finds a way. It's bizarre. We'll talk to Joe Healy coming up here in 20 minutes about the Hogs, and we'll preview tonight's game briefly before we get into some of the other series that may seem to be a little bit more important than Georgia and Arkansas. But you never think Arkansas is the most loaded team in the country in terms of their weekend rotation, but all of a sudden they just show up and they win. Whether it's going to Kevin Kopps twice in a weekend for 7 total innings and winning 2 games, or whatever the case may be, they just seem to figure it out, and they've dealt with all these injuries, and they're still right where they want to be. And I mentioned this yesterday when I did my power rankings, but I'll bring it back up today. I didn't see any sort of release, but I'll just pay attention to the box scores this weekend. Brady Tigert, who you might be familiar with, last year was Arkansas's closer as a true freshman and was dominant early in the season. Kind of ran out of gas, as some freshmen do, but he had a really good freshman year, and he throws 97 miles an hour with a good breaking ball. He's been out since week 2, and it seems like he may come back this weekend. So that doesn't affect LSU in terms of moving forward because the Tigers don't play Arkansas, but it certainly affects Arkansas to have one of your best bullpen arms back in action. So they'll get Tigert back potentially this weekend. I'll keep an eye on that, but I don't think Arkansas is going to have any trouble going to Athens and winning. However, I'll put on my red and black, sick 'em, hunker down, you hairy dogs, let's go. Woo, woo, woo. Probably shouldn't do the dog thing, right? That gives me a shake of his head. But, hey, I'm pulling for Georgia in that one, and we'll just see what shakes out between Florida and South Carolina. Tigers are done with the Gamecocks and don't play the Gators this year, so that's just going to be a heck of a series over in Columbia. They got a lot of those over in Columbia. South Carolina trying to return to relevance. They'll get their shot once again this weekend. That'll do it for hour number 1 here of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of it, you can catch it on demand, 1045 ESPN.com's on-demand tab. All our shows every day, all the audio uploaded to 1045ESPN.com. If you get your podcast on Spotify, on Google, on what's the other one? Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There we go. If you get it there, you can always find our stuff. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Always appreciate that. We can find our stuff on YouTube each and every day as we upload our full show every day, as well as some of the highlights segment by segment. So go ahead and check that out on demand. We opened up talking football for 30 minutes. I gave my thoughts on LSU's quarterbacks. Preston Guy chimed in as well from TigerBait.com. Then some D1 baseball field of 64 projections as we have passed through week 10 in the college baseball calendar. We'll take a break for SportsCenter. We'll come back with some LSU football talk, specifically on some wide receivers. Joe Healy coming up at 2:15. Come back with us. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales service and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Healy have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd.
At the Ochsner Medical Complex at the Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown presented by Ochsner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com.
All right.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. In the NBA playoffs tonight, Game 3, 76ers and Nets in Brooklyn. Coverage starts at 7 Eastern here on ESPN Radio. The Sixers are up 2-0. The Kings are up 2-0 against the Warriors with Game 3 in San Francisco tonight. No Draymond Green for Golden State as he serves a 1-game suspension. ESPN's Brian Windhorst.
This is like a golden opportunity for the Kings, and in a strange way, the pressure is on them a little bit. There'll definitely be pressure on Domantas Sabonis. We know that every step he takes is going to be watched closely by the officials, and definitely the crowd is going to be all over him.
Brian Windhorst on Get Up. Also tonight, Game 3, Suns and Clippers in Los Angeles with the series tied. Our Jeff Passan reports the Diamondbacks designate left-hander Madison Bumgarner for assignment. They'll have to pay $34 million remaining on his contract. And the Oakland A's sign a deal to buy land in Las Vegas where they intend to build a new $1.5 billion ballpark. Their current lease in Oakland expires after next season.
Coming up Friday as Donovan Mitchell gets ready to play in the Garden, I'll tell you why the Knicks will regret not trading for him, even if they win the series. Keyshawn J. Will and Max, 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on a Thursday, Hunt Palmer Show. Thanks for hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Of course, we're coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city. You missed my show open just an hour ago. I just talked about LSU's quarterback situation entering the 2023 football season, and I painted it in a very positive light because I think it's a very positive thing. And when I did it, I was just talking about this season because really when you analyze a position group with a college football program, it doesn't do you a ton of good to talk about the depth of the position down through the freshman class. It sounds good in theory, and it's better than not having any depth of the position, but trying to forecast what that position's going to look like 1 year later, not much less 2 or 3, is impossible with the transfer portal. Remember, LSU a couple years ago, signed that loaded wide receiver class that, featured Malik Neighbors, who's here and should be your number one. And it featured Brian Thomas, who should be your number two. And featured Chris Hilton, who's a redshirt sophomore and probably factors in somewhere. But it also featured Deion Smith, who's not here. It also featured Jack Besh, who's not here. So you saw Smith and Besh have big games as freshmen. Move right on. So when I talk about LSU's wide receiver position entering 2023, I don't do so with a look at, they got these, got Lacey and Neighbors and Thomas and Hilton. Ibietta's been here before. And they're bringing in Kyle Parker and Jalen Brown and still got Shelton Sampson to come in. And look at the depth that they've created there. They're really healthy at the position for the next few years. Well, they might be. I can't tell you they won't be, but I can't tell you they will be either. But what I can tell you about the wide receiver room moving into 2023 is that it's old and it's a group that's got some skins on the wall. Malik Neighbors is a star. He had a 1,000-yard receiving year last year. He's a big play threat. He's a first down catcher. He's a red zone target. He's a great player, and that's a guy that we saw in practice for a year and a half before it finally clicked, and off we go. He'll be great as your number one. Brian Thomas came into his own last year. When I think of Brian Thomas, I think of the catch he made in the swamp last year in the red zone on a jump ball that was, I think, at the exact same time, 38% of the population in the state of Louisiana said, "Thank you, that's what happens when we take a shot." Right? I certainly said that to my TV. There's probably some of you driving around or listening wherever you may be that thought the same thing. And Jaden Daniels took some shots in that Florida game. He threw the ball down the field, and LSU's offense was nearly unstoppable. I think they scored a touchdown on their first 6 drives of that game. So that's the type of athleticism, size, 6'4", 205, can jump, high point balls. He's a dude, and he's coming back. Kyron Lacey had his ups and downs last year. Of course, he's the Louisiana Lafayette transfer, and he had some drops, but had some catches as well. And so if that's your number 3, okay. I don't expect your number 3 all the time to be Terrace Marshall, 2019, leading the NCAA football in touchdown catches. That's nice. It's fun, but that's not the way it always has to be. I think back to number 3 receivers in my time paying attention to LSU football. For some reason, the 03 season when it was Clayton and Devery Henderson and Skylar Green was your number 3 as a younger player, as a sophomore. And that's a heck of a number 3. You don't always have a great number 3. And Kyron Lacey's certainly serviceable. And then what comes of the rest of the pack? I asked Preston Guy an hour ago about Chris Hilton. He said Chris Hilton's been out there. He looks good. If you go back and watch the whatever highlights there were of that Kansas State-Texas Bowl, when LSU had 11 players and these 2 cans of Rally Cat beer dressed out to play, he had a touchdown on the last play of the game that kind of showcased the speed that he's got. He is a legitimate speedster. Now, he's coming off injury, and whether or not he's still got all of it, I don't know, but I'd like to see it. And then you've got the youngsters coming in with Kyle Parker, Jalen Brown, and Shelton Sampson. And what I would rather do for the sake of this discussion, so that it holds a little bit more water, is not determine what those 3 are going to be 3 years from now, because the odds are stacked that 1 or 2 of them won't be here. I'm just being realistic. But if you just have one of those guys really hit, whether it's the route running and polish of Kyle Parker, who John Jancic said they're looking at in the kick returning game, whether it's the just absolute speed of Jalen Brown from the Miami area, whether it's the size and athleticism and raw upside of Shelton Sampson. I just need one. I got Neighbors. I got Thomas. We're good there. I feel like there's a reasonable chance that Lacey can be a serviceable 3rd and Hilton's got some talent. There's a 4th. And then if I can get one of my freshmen to hit, well, I've got the talent I need. And you've covered yourself potentially down the road with high school players, which you want to have. But the odds are you're probably going to have to dip into the portal here or there, like LSU did with Aaron Anderson, who I haven't even gotten to yet. So I could have a discussion about how having Chris Hilton, who's got 3 years left to play, and Kyle Parker, who's got 4 to play, and Jaylen Brown, who's got 4 to play, and Shelton Sampson, who's got 4 to play, and Aaron Anderson, who's got 4 to play. Like, I could have that conversation, but I don't really think it matters because we don't know what the future holds. We know what the present tells us, and the present tells me that LSU has a lot of weapons on the outside. You'll see some of them in action in the spring. And, oh, by the way, I opened the show an hour ago telling you that I really like the quarterback situation. Last year we entered the season saying that LSU's strength was on the perimeter and getting the ball out to the wide receivers from the quarterback spot. That remains to me. But the change from last year's discussion to this one is that last year the offensive line was a big question mark. This year, not so much. Your bookends are set. You're veteran on the interior. Feels like you should have a pretty good unit there. LSU should be able to throw the football and make plays on the outside in this 23 football season, and it's because of what they've put together in terms of amassing talent at wide receiver. I wish they could make a trade, maybe a couple of these young wide receivers for a proven NFL-type back. I would love to do that if we were in the trading mold. We've just done free agency. We're not to trading yet in college football. Got free agency. You can go grab as many as you want. We can't trade yet, so we're not there. But it's really healthy at wide receiver. And if you'll notice, I'm taking it upon myself to be almost overwhelmingly positive in the spring because why not? Why would you be negative sitting here in April going through some walkthrough practices? Time for criticism comes in September. We know that. But those of you who've listened to me long enough know that there's a calendar here with the college football fan. And it crescendos in optimism to September. Whatever happens over the next 3 months determines how you feel at that current moment. But it always comes back around with signing day, spring football, which we're in right now, into off-season workouts where the strength coach tells you everybody's in the best shape they've ever been in, and then fall camp where all the beat writers tell you how good everything looks. And then you reach that crescendo again. We're not at crescendo levels, but we're on the way up. So why not be positive and optimistic talking about how these guys look in spring football? 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and the Baton Rouge Clinic bring you the Dreams Come True Radiothon. Dreams Come True is an organization designed to help grant dreams for children with life-threatening illnesses and their families. The Dreams Come True Radiothon, presented today by the Baton Rouge Men's Clinic, Patient Plus, and Louisiana Federal Land Bank. Donate today at 1045ESPN.com. A reminder, as we've been telling you for a week and a half now, every $5 you donate at 1045ESPN.com puts in your name to win great raffle items that we've got here. The Nola brothers, Austin and Aaron, autographed ball, bat, picture, Justin Jefferson autographed LSU helmet, and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase framed wall print. You can also win 3 days and 2 nights at the CMA Music Festival in Nashville, Friday, June 9th through the 11th. And concert ticket package, Thomas Rhett, Shinedown, Zach Bryan, Depeche Mode, Guns N' Roses, Hardy, all available here at 1045ESPN.com. We tell you once a show here for the month of April. If you've got the means, we certainly appreciate it. Dreams Come True is such a wonderful organization, keeps all the money in our state to help make dreams come true for children who are fighting these awful, awful, tough battles. And so if you've got the means, we appreciate going to 1045ESPN.com and donating. No donation too big, no donation too small. And as I've said the last couple of days, because it's been relayed to us, you, the listener, have just been so great with your donations this month. It's been a rousing success thus far. We can close it out strong. We got 10 days to go, and we can continue to make as many of these dreams come true as we possibly can, and you are the ones that are making that happen. So we certainly appreciate it. We'll take a time out. Come back with Joe Healy of D1 Baseball next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team have been in this business for 30 years. What would your dream bathroom look like? Jacuzzi, tub, walk-in shower, the vanity that you've always wanted. Maybe you need a couple of sinks because you've added someone into your home. They can make it happen for you at One Bath and Closets. And the best part is you don't even have to call multiple contractors. You just make one call to One Bath and Closets. They handle it from start to finish. I promise you they're going to show up. They're going to be professional. They're going to be on time. and they're not going to be coming back 2 weeks after the project's done because they cut some corners and something's not done properly. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Maybe it's a full-scale renovation like I'm talking about. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just need a tub-to-shower conversion. They can do that as well. Put a gorgeous walk-in shower right there in your bathroom. On the closet side, if you don't have a closet that's customized to you and you don't feel like you have the adequate room, let David Duvall and his team come in and do a free consultation. They can do that. They can tell you what you need, and they can get it done for you. And if you're a listener to the Hunt Palmer Show, which, of course, you would be, you get some perks. They're not going to charge you for the labor to tear out your current closet or to install the new one, just the cost of that unit. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website, OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
For the Friday edition of Handy Time from Rufino's, we get it started at 10 a.m. with Jimmy Ott's Game Time and take you all the way till 1 o'clock. Former LSU pitcher Trey Hodges is with us. We'll be talking about LSU baseball. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Always one of our favorite times of the week. We hit the Jim's Firearms Hotline and bring in our friend Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Joe, how are you?
Not too bad. Just landed in Lexington, Kentucky. Going to see a little Kentucky and A&M this weekend. Also some Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Going to pop over to Knoxville, just a short drive down the road. So a couple different places this weekend and a couple of series that maybe aren't at the front of mind, but both are big series. And looking forward to it too. I've been in Knoxville a time or two, but this will be my first time at the new park in Kentucky, so I'm kind of excited.
Excellent. A little double dip on the weekend. Well, I was listening to Highway to Hoover this week, and you said you may need to issue a little mea culpa to the LSU fans here in Baton Rouge for pumping up the pitching staff and then what happened against the Kentucky Wildcats. Were you surprised that Kentucky knocked it around the yard a little bit on LSU?
I suppose so. I mean, Kentucky, here's the thing, is that I compared it in our D1 baseball internal WhatsApp conversation that having Kentucky do that to you must be like what it's like as a college football team to get run all over by a triple option offense. Because you can see it coming, you know it's coming, you know what they're doing, and you just can't do anything about it in the moment, and it's maddening. And that's kind of what it felt like with Kentucky, where it's just like walk, single, sack fly, sack bunt, single. So I was a little surprised that they scored as much as they did against LSU, because that's not an offense, even when it's operating well, that's going to put up, a bunch of crooked numbers. But I'm not surprised that once they started rolling downhill that they kind of got going a little bit, because that's a team that really kind of vibes on that. Like it's a team that kind of seems like they're able to kind of build on each other and play off of each other. And when they get going, they get going really well. That's one of the reasons they're off to such a hot start this season for the most part. But yeah, I was surprised at how much, once LSU kind of got past the first couple of waves of guys, that it got pretty thin pretty quick. And I think we said on Highway to Hoover and, maybe some other places, Mark and I, that the key to this whole thing is Ty Floyd, it feels like. Because if you've got schemes, and last week I know he got hit a little bit, but you have to feel good about him. And then if Floyd can give you something solid, then you're in a decent place, because very few teams have a good Sunday plan. Tennessee with Beam and South Carolina, when the rotation is healthy, with Jack Mahoney, are two exceptions. But, Floyd has been not up to expectation more often than not this season, and that's kind of been the crux of the issue. I'm not putting it all on him, of course, but not being able to get anything in the rotation behind schemes is a long-term issue.
Do you think Christian Little, who had 3 really good innings and then lost it in the 4th with 3 walks, has a chance to become a quality option for LSU on the weekend?
He does. At this point, though, we have to come in with some managed expectations. I think I mentioned something similar to you last week about Thatcher Hurd, where, a highly talented guy, but a couple of years at Vanderbilt, and now in the early part of this season with LSU, or first half of the season with LSU, I think we have to trust that if he was one of their best options initially, they'd go to him. Now, they're in a different place now. They might not have any other options. Clearly, he's talented. But I think we need to understand that the idea that Christian Little is going to get moved into the rotation and all of a sudden he'll become the Christian Little that was the number 1 prospect in the country whenever he was coming out of high school is just probably not fair to him at this point, or fair to LSU, or fair to anyone. And that if you can just get someone to give you 5 or 6 solid innings, that should be considered a win.
So we'll go around the SEC a little bit here. One of the stories I think of last week when we talked about Alabama in the pre-conference and early in conference play, you kind of led with, well, they got Hess and Hit in the rotation, which was a pretty good one too. And all of a sudden you look up and they're both gone. But Garrett McMillan did come back last week and was pretty tough. What do you make of Alabama's pitching staff right now? They're coming to Baton Rouge next week, but with the total shakeup at the top and maybe an Olden face that just showed up.
Yeah, it's a weird deal, because I had a Alabama beat writer on the podcast this week, and he made a point of, look, it wasn't just that Garrett McMillan came back and he pitched well. All that was the most important piece. It's also that this was the guy who was their Friday starter last year.
Yeah.
So I think there's some level of this team going like, okay, you know what? We'd rather have Hit and Hess still, but this is our guy. This was the guy who led us every weekend last year, and he's got real stuff. He's not some soft tossing guy who gets away with mediocre stuff. This dude can shove it. And so I think getting him back and having him pitch so well, I think was an emotional pick-me-up for that team at a time when they really, really needed it. So I'm still a little bit skeptical of, a rotation with him and Jacob McNary and Luke Holman. I'm a little skeptical that ultimately holds up. But here's the other thing. I think I've said on your show before that, Alabama was doing a good job earlier this season of not getting swept. And so you look up, they're 6-9 in the league. They've got Mizzou this weekend. Even though it's on the road, that's a series, if you're going to be a regional team, you should handle. They could come out of that series feeling like, hey, we're right there. If we end up just playing slightly under 500 baseball the rest of the way, we're going to be a regional club. And I think given all that they've dealt with this season, I think they'd absolutely take that.
Look up at Knoxville where you'll be at some point this weekend, and I say, okay, well, they were missing Maliahuna for a couple of weeks, and then he got back, and then, well, they're trying to get their starting rotation figured out, and then you see Vitello blow the whole thing up and not announce starters, and it feels like there were some buttons that they could push along the way. They go and get swept at Arkansas. Are they out of buttons?
It feels a little like that, doesn't it? I mean, I don't want to completely take it off the table, but the combination of we're going into week 10. Yes, they've had some injuries, but who doesn't? It just feels like a team that's a little bit shell-shocked by the game isn't that easy. And it's a different team this year, but there were some guys who were on that roster last year who won a bunch of games, and I think it might have been easy to kind of, even though if they intellectually knew that it shouldn't be this easy, it's really easy to just kind of assume that you're going to be able to roll back out and you're ranked number 2 in the preseason and things are just going to be peachy, and then you hit some adversity and you've not really had to deal with a ton of that. It feels like a club that I think that's kind of what Tony Vitello is trying to send messages with when he shakes things up is, hey, look, we're getting close to being out of rope here. We've got to do something about this. We can't be cavalier about this. But I am starting to really suspect that this might just be what they are. Now, that being said, if they do find a way to back into a regional, because they're not totally dead in that regard, it's not going to be a team you want to see pop up as a 2 or a 3 just because they could magically turn it on one weekend and Dolander and Burns and Beam are awesome, and all of a sudden it's like, well, this team could be an Omaha team because nobody's out here making the argument they're not talented, right? So I'll be fascinated to see how they finish for sure.
That's one of the arguments I always make for the SEC is, one, you get such an RPI boost by playing quality opponents week in and week out, and 2, when you show up to a regional, if you're, say, a 3 or a 2 that year, like LSU was a 2 last year, and you don't get sent to an SEC team, and they can't send you one of these sneaky SEC teams if you're an SEC team and you host. So it's another kind of baked-in advantage there, and certainly you would not want that orange showing up as a 2 or even a 3 seed, depending on how the rest of the way goes. All right, let's move to this weekend. We'll start tonight. Florida's headed to Columbia to play South Carolina. I am fascinated by this series. South Carolina, to me, has kind of proven they belong. I don't think that's even a question anymore. Do you think they've got enough to beat Florida on their home field this weekend?
Yeah, I think they do. It's a series between 2 teams that this might sound nuts, but it is kind of a series between 2 teams that have a little something to prove. I mean, South Carolina, I don't want to downplay it. Sure, 100% right. It was important for this club, understanding that there was a lot of doubt. I mean, we had them ranked in the preseason, and a lot of people thought we were nuts. And I wasn't even 100% sold, to be honest with you. So it was important for them to show, hey, that, we can compete like this. But here's the deal. If they're going to be a top 8 seed, they do have to start winning some of these series. Yeah. And so that is important for them. And for Florida, going into the season, we would not have guessed this, but you look back on their schedule now, and they really haven't played anybody that's a lock regional team. Their best series win is Alabama. Now, they've also had series wins over Ole Miss and over Tennessee. And at the beginning of the season, we would have thought, oh, what a gauntlet. But it didn't turn out that way, obviously. So I'm a full believer in Florida. I think they're a national title contender. I don't want any listener to think that I'm sitting here doubting Florida. However, they do still have something to prove against a team that we look at as being a host type or national seed type team.
Aggies have won 3 series in a row. You'll see them in Lexington. Are they starting to figure something out?
Offensively, yes. On the mound, it seems like they're losing answers, if that makes sense. The offense has been really good. As of late, getting Brett Minnick back was huge. Jace Laviolette, the big freshman, who came in with a lot of acclaim, has started to figure it out a little bit. Jack Moss has been the same guy he was last year. So that's turning the right way. But, last weekend felt like a little bit of a nadir of their pitching situation. I mean, they're in a situation where basically they're throwing Nathan Detmer 6 innings a weekend, kind of regardless of the results, because they have to. They just need depth out of somebody. And then beyond that, they went with 2 openers last weekend. One worked okay, and they won the game. And the other, guy, Carson Lambert, didn't make it out of the first inning. And so as I watch this series this weekend, I'm going to be interested to see what they do on the mound, especially if Detmer struggles again this weekend, because that really puts them way behind the 8 ball.
For sure, but I think they'll hit that Kentucky staff this weekend. That's kind of what I'm banking on, because I don't like Kentucky staff. I didn't like them on video before I watched them this weekend, and then I thought LSU handled them pretty well. I just don't love Kentucky's pitching.
I'm with you. They don't miss a ton of bats, and in the SEC that can be problematic, because anytime in SEC ballparks with these level of hitters and as many offensive ballparks as there are in the SEC, that's a problem. So I'm with you generally, but one thing I like about Kentucky, and I think LSU saw it, is that they have enough options that if like something's not working, they're not waiting around.
Yeah.
Like they're just going to go get somebody else.
That's the John Cohen school. I'll just change pitchers at any time. Mick Mingione comes right from that tree.
That's exactly right. And so that's what they have going for them. Their team in general is depth over star power, right? I mean, I'm not sure I'd take their top 7 or 8 players over any other top 7 or 8 in the conference, including the teams at the bottom of the standings. But their depth is as good as really any club when you start looking at the back of the roster. And in series that get ugly, like this one might be, that's a real benefit.
LSU's headed to Oxford. Big Morgan Wallen concert in the football stadium. Should be a lot of people in town. They're desperate. What do you make of the Rebs at this point, sitting here at 3-12?
That amazingly they're in a worse position than they were last year.
Yep.
So that's kind of hard to believe that at this point they're kind of in worse shape. We talked about Tennessee being out of options, and that's what I'm much more confident that's what this Ole Miss team is, because with Tennessee it's like they could flip the switch anytime now, especially on the mound, and it could change the whole deal. But this just kind of is what they are, and Hunter Elliott coming back is like, okay, like maybe it has the Garrett McMillan effect. But I'm not necessarily going to bet on it since we haven't seen him since opening weekend. I just think it's a club that's, in this version of the SEC, I'd be surprised if they claw back out of it, because I'm not sure what this team does that is a trump card over really any other club or most other clubs in this conference, right? The offense is really good at the top, but it's slacked a little bit since non-conference play. The pitching staff obviously has had its struggles in the rotation. Its bullpen is fairly thin beyond a couple of guys. So I'm not really sure in a given weekend. Yeah, they can scrap, like they can win some ugly games, but I'm just not sure what they're leaning on right now to be able to lead them back to being in position to make the postseason.
Still got it burned into my brain. Chase Parham does such a great job covering Ole Miss for Rebel Grove. Was on Matt Moscona's show, who's our afternoon drive host, right after me last year when Ole Miss came here and said, yeah, it's basically the last button that Bianco has to push. He's going to throw Hunter Elliott in there and Dylan DeLucia, and they'll just kind of see if it works. And then all of a sudden, 2 months later, they had a trophy behind it. So I'm just hoping they don't find some fire this weekend against the Tigers. It doesn't appear that that's quite in the repertoire.
They've started pitching Kemp Alderman, and so if Kemp Alderman turns out to be like the best reliever in the SEC over the next 4 weeks, we can revisit this conversation later.
We sure will. Joe, enjoy the weekend. A couple stops on the SEC. We'll do it again next week.
All right, I appreciate it, buddy.
He is Joe Healy, D1 Baseball, SEC Extra. Always one of my favorite conversations of the week. Appreciate him giving us some time as he's traveling. Watch a little baseball this weekend. We'll take a time out. This is not how they actually teach you to do teases in broadcast school, but this will be the tease for the next segment. I'm going to talk about something in the next segment that you don't care about at all. However, I'm pretty passionate about it, so we'll do that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. Dr. Robert Jackson is our champion here in April. Robert Jackson founded the MLK Health Center and Pharmacy in Shreveport, Northwest Louisiana's oldest free clinic and pharmacy. It provides over $16 million in services to over 1,700 patients every year. And the clinic operates at no expense to the patient and returns an average of $25 to the community for every $1 invested in the center. Clinics like the MLK Health Center and Pharmacy are essential in a state like Louisiana, which has one of the highest uninsured rates in the country. And that's what makes Robert Jackson a champion of Louisiana. If you know someone who's doing great work in our state, North Louisiana, like Dr. Jackson, South Louisiana, where we sit right here today, we want to know about it, and LWCC wants to know about it. So go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a nonprofit, a person, to be a champion of Louisiana. Dr. Robert Jackson is April's Champion of Louisiana, presented by LWCC.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
What's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Each year, Guarantee Media hosts a radiothon to benefit Dreams Come True, the local organization that grants dreams to Louisiana kids suffering life-threatening illnesses and their families. We've interviewed these incredible kids, and their stories warm our hearts. And none of it would be possible without your help. So we're asking for your support in our effort to making more dreams come true. Each year, our Dreams Come True radiothon is powered by the Baton Rouge Clinic. Visit GuaranteeMedia.com to pledge your support today, and thank you.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walk.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Healy have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd.
At the Ochsner Medical Complex at the Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown presented by Ochsner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com. All right.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales service and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Brian Kelly meets with the media after the Tigers' final practice of spring, and we chat with Kendall Rogers. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's our next segment's going to be Take It or Leave It, as it always is. And we like to have a little bit of fun in Take It or Leave It. We do some things that are a little bit off the wall. We talk about some things that aren't necessarily top of mind here in Baton Rouge. And we saw a story over the weekend, so we put it into Take It or Leave It yesterday. Here was the question that Beck asked me for Take It or Leave It yesterday.
The Mets broadcast team was unable to broadcast the Mets A series over the weekend because of a possum living in the walls of the booth. This comes a year after the toilets overflowed in the Coliseum, and that caused a postponement of a game. The A's need out of Oakland. Take it or leave it.
So that's the question. The A's need out of Oakland. Take it or leave it. And literally 10 hours later, it leaked out that the A's are leaving Oakland. And as I teased in the last segment, nobody here cares if the A's are in Oakland or not. It wouldn't surprise me literally if there was not a single person with any interest in the Oakland A's listening to me right this second, period. But I'm passionate about this. And it's not because I understand what goes into owning a professional sports franchise. I'm pretty comfortable talking about when you should go for 2 and when you shouldn't, and who should be the starting pitcher, or who they should hit third as opposed to 8th. Like, I can talk about this stuff on the field. I don't know anything about becoming a titan of industry or building wealth or owning a sports franchise. But I do feel strongly that when you purchase a sports franchise, you now work for the people who love that franchise. When you operate it like a business and consider every expense and are reluctant to spend any dollars, you're doing a great injustice to people that care about that sports team. And there are tens and hundreds of thousands of those with every professional sports team. That's why the Cubs have driven me up a wall the last couple of years, not spending any money. And the A's announcing that they're leaving Oakland really upsets me. And I understand that franchises have moved all over the place over the course of sports history in this country. They're not the first, and they're not going to be the last. But it's a travesty to me. Because this owner and this ownership group are going to be rewarded with this brand new hotshot stadium and franchise in this exploding city of Las Vegas for absolute malpractice for decades. They win for screwing up, and the fans who have put up with it for decades have to have their hearts broken. I read some tweets from people who live in Oakland over the last 12 hours. It sucks. They're talking about growing up watching the A's with their dad, with their grandfather, with their mom, with their siblings, with their kids. And it's getting ripped out. And that sucks. I know no one goes to the games. You may be yelling, well, they have nobody there. I know. The Cubs just played the A's this week, and there was nobody there. You know why there's nobody there? Because the ownership group refuses to pay anyone or fix anything in that ridiculously awful stadium. The A's are dead last in Major League Baseball in payroll. They spend $60 million on their team. Anybody who has any success in Oakland gets shipped out of town for prospects. They don't even try. There was a movie made about the fact that the A's wouldn't spend any money and they somehow beat the odds and fielded a decent baseball team. That's literally the theme of the movie. Yeah, we got this owner who won't spend money on anybody and so we have to go find Scott Hatteberg to go play first base. It breaks my heart that it operates like this. And here's the answer. You have to sell the team because you're not equipped to spend the money to go get the players. So you have to sell to some person or group that will do it. You're in a sport that will allow you to spend as much money as you want. And you know who's taking that to heart? Steve Cohen. The Mets payroll is $345 million this year. Now, not everyone's Steve Cohen. Very few people are. But somebody will take the reins of that franchise and spend money and try so that their people will come to the game and it can actually operate like a functional organization as opposed to having possums in the wall of the broadcast booth and frickin' toilets overflowing in the seats. I realize that I shouldn't get this upset about it, but I'm imagining LSU being pulled from me. It's a different deal. I know they can't move colleges. I got it. But this is what my kid's going to grow up doing. Myers is going to be going to LSU games for the rest of his life, and he's going to grow up going to them with me. And in the span of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, Oakland has lost the football team and the baseball team because the ownership groups suck. And that breaks my heart for the people that it impacts. It doesn't impact me at all. And I realize that I pull for a baseball team that is hundreds and thousands of miles away from me. And you can still do that if you're an Oakland A's fan when they move to Vegas and you just buy the channel and you watch them. It's not the same. And it sickens me that the ownership group that's not capable of owning a Major League Baseball team, and you can come back at me and say, well, they bought it. Yes, certainly they're qualified. No, they're not. Because they didn't know how to do it. They didn't do it properly. And now they're getting rewarded by moving the baseball team to a different city and breaking the hearts of generations of people who have watched what was a proud organization at one time. And it's gone. And that sucks. I'm always, always, always going to hold the belief that an ownership group of a professional sports team works for the fans. It's your job to spend the money to create the facilities and get the players and get the proper people in the organization. You spend and you spend and you spend. You know why I tell you to do that? Because if you think you've got money problems and don't want to spend, then you sell the franchise for $2 billion and poof, your money problems are gone. You either buy it with the intent to sell and win, or you sell it. I saw the news this morning. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So the A's are going to Oakland, and they're going to Vegas, and I know that everyone thinks that I'm a lunatic for caring this much about it, but it's wrong. It should not be the way that it is. And yeah, the Oilers moving to Tennessee creates generations of happiness for now Titans fans. And yeah, the A's moving from St. Louis to Philadelphia to Oakland like that. Oakland didn't have. I get it. I get how the whole thing works. But I don't like ripping franchises away from cities. And it's happening with the A's, which sucks in my opinion. We'll take a time out. We'll come back and close it up. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Fellas, next to an A's fan, I'd buy him a Rally Cap beer. Rally Cap, handmade for the home team, which doesn't apply to Oakland anymore. But applies to us right here in Baton Rouge. Love Rally Cap. You can find them in Alec Box Stadium. See this teal can that's in front of me every single day? That's their first pitch, their first brew over there at Rally Cap. It's a pale ale. It is fantastic. I love it. If you're looking for a little more pop, a little more flavor, Ballpark Breakfast Imperial Pastry Stout, brewed with maple syrup, cinnamon, and vanilla. I like the Windy Peppercorns here on set as well. It's their Golden Milk Stout. I love the In a Pickle. It's very, very light. The brewery over there is awesome. It is family friendly. It is pet friendly. You can go watch a ball game. Invite the A's fans to come on out to Rally Cap and watch their team. And they've got tours, which start Wednesday through Friday. So today, Thursday, they got a tour at 5 o'clock. But you got to buy tickets in advance at rallycapbrewing.com. Their tours are at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Saturday at 1 o'clock. Looking for something to do with gorgeous weather on Saturday, go over to Rallycap and get a tour. Got to get tickets at rallycapbrewing.com. Rallycap, handmade for the home team.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down the
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walk.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Healy have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd.
At the Ochsner Medical Complex at The Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks, Jambalaya Showdown, presented by Oshner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle.
Jimmy out and Charles Handegriff for the Thursday edition of Game Time. It's live from Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday from Jolie Pearl downtown facing Town Square. Game Time on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We're playing best ball over at the Zurich Classic in Avondale at TPC, Louisiana. As I said at the top of the show, the course looks really good on the stream. I watched a little bit this morning, kind of get a sense of the way things were going out there, and the course looks really good on TV for a Louisiana course. We got flat land. We don't have any oceanside courses, but it does look good. It looks like it's in great shape, and the scores have been, as you would imagine, for best ball with PGA Tour players, quite good. Keith Mitchell and Sungjae Im shot a 10 under 62, as did brothers Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick. Alex, not even with tour status, but he and his brother got it around at 10 under today. David Lipsky and Aaron Ray shot 10 under as well. Justin Suh and Sahit Theegala shot 9 under there in second place, tied with Doc Redman and Sam Ryder, as well as Troy Merritt and Robert Streb. None of the morning times have quite the afternoon times have quite approached what was done in the morning. But the local boy, Sam Burns, he and Billy Horschel shot 8 under, so very much right in it. They are tied 8th. Right there with them is Harris English and Tom Hoagie, who's played some great golf over the last year. So Zurich Classic, they'll get an alternate shot tomorrow. We'll get you some updates as we move along in our show tomorrow. But got to get out of here, so let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Starting off here, Auburn's Jalen Williams will test the NBA draft waters. The Thunder will draft their third pick, Jalen Williams. Take it or leave it. Oh wait, their third Jalen Williams player.
They got 2 right now.
Yeah.
I gotta think that there's some sort of rule against that. Certainly, the play-by-play announcer can get involved with the front office and say, "Look, there are a lot of players you can select in this draft. I'd really appreciate it if you didn't take another Jalen Williams. We've got to say they're college every time we call them out during the season. Let's just stick away from the Jalen Williams for a couple of years and move on in another direction here if you're the Thunder."
All right, Tiger Woods underwent a subtalar fusion on his ankle this week.
Sounds right.
All right, and has Tiger played his last major championship? Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it, but we're getting close. You can just see between the plantar fasciitis and the ankle surgery he just had to have, he just can't walk. He can stand on the driving range and hit some drives. His club head speed's still good. He still carries it out there 300 yards. Like, he's still got some of the shots required to play PGA Tour golf. He can't walk. So I just don't think he's always said he's not going to go out there as some sort of ceremonial placeholder. He's not going to be a guy who's playing because he was really good 20 years ago. When he thinks he can't do it anymore, he's just going to stop. And so I don't know. I think he'll play his last one, and we'll know he's playing his last one if he wants to come back and play one more time at Augusta or whatever. He may not play again this year after having ankle surgery. That would seem to be a long shot to me. So I think we'll see him a time or two more, but I don't think he's going to play in 15 more major championships. I mean, that would be over, 4 years? So I don't see it.
The Diamondbacks are eating $34 million in salary to designate Madison Bumgarner for assignment. Wow. $34 million for someone not to pitch. Take it or leave it.
They don't have any other options. They got to take it. They're not going to be able to trade him because he's not any good, and you can't send him to the minor leagues. He's got options there. So you designate it for an assignment. Somebody can claim him, or he just becomes a free agent, and probably somebody will pick him up because he's catching a huge check from the Diamondbacks, and he'll be pretty cheap. But he's done. He's lost any velocity he had. He was still chirping at Wilson Contreras earlier this week, and it's hard for me to take the back of a Cardinal, but my 2016 boys that were Cubs then, I got to defend them. So, look, he's done. He doesn't have any more stuff. He's pitching just because of his reputation in the league. The stuff doesn't play anymore, and I think somebody will pick him up, but this may be his last year as a pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Bills QB Josh Allen said, "I know when I'm using my youth, I feel like I can, but over the course of my career, I'm going to have to learn to adapt and change. And I've always had the mindset of I've been a football player first and a quarterback second. And at some point, that's going to have to switch. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You got to take it. I mean, at a certain point, you can't run around all over the place. It's now that I'm invested a little bit in the Bengals, I'm paying a little more attention to the AFC than I may have in years past. And watching Allen and Mahomes play is such a treat because they just do things that I don't think were very commonplace 20 years ago when you had guys just standing in the pocket and letting it rip. They're moving constantly and taking some hits, and it leads to injury. I mean, both guys got hurt this past year. Mahomes was able to gut through it and got him a Super Bowl, and Allen played admirably, but he was dinged up a lot of the year and missed some time. So it's you've got to play from the pocket. It's a little safer, and Tom Brady was able to do it for a long time, and so is Drew Brees. Eventually, it always catches up to you, but you're going to have to play a little bit differently. It's just interesting to see the evolution of the quarterback because now you look at the top quarterbacks in the league, and there really aren't any that just stand there and throw missiles from the pocket. Like, that's just not something you see a ton of. Like, when I say that out loud, I think of Justin Herbert a little bit because he's got such a big arm, but he does move around. He is a good athlete. I mean, there just aren't guys that stand there and let it rip. Like, then I was thinking about back into like the 90s, like Troy Aikman couldn't move an inch and just sat there and just threw it. And that guy, like, that's just not there anymore. Marino wasn't like he was running all over the place either. It was a bunch of guys that had huge arms that could just fire it down the field. Now everybody's moving around and making plays and moving the pocket and spreading the field and all that kind of stuff. So to a degree, you've kind of got to have that. But eventually you got to stop taking his hits. He's a big boy. So you got to stop taking all those hits. And then you look at the guys in this draft that people were looking at, and they move, like all of them. I don't know how much Bryce Young wants to get hit, but he can certainly move. C.J. Stroud can certainly move. Certainly Levis can move as well. We'll see what the draft brings. Anthony Richardson can do a little bit more than move, but it's just kind of the way the game's played. But it's an interesting thing to hear Josh Allen say, like, I'm going to have to adapt eventually, and so maybe that time sooner rather than later. Open up today's show talking LSU football, talking LSU quarterback specifically, and how I feel entering this 2023 season. We'll see them out there in the spring game on Saturday. Preston Guy from TigerBait.com came on at 1:15 to talk about the spring game and a little SEC or LSU football. D1 baseball, field of 64 projections as of week 10. I kind of kicked that around a little bit and talked about where LSU stands. The SEC is in great shape, and LSU obviously in great shape to this point where they've created a little bit of wiggle room here down the stretch. Previewed all Arkansas, Georgia, and Florida, South Carolina, who will get their SEC series underway today. We'll recap a little bit of that tomorrow and get you prepped for the SEC weekend to come. LSU wide receiver talk in hour number 2 at 2 o'clock. Just think LSU's in a really good spot in terms of talent and depth entering this season. Joe Healy, one of the better conversations we have all week about SEC baseball, was at 2:15, and I just blew a gasket on the A's moving out of Oakland at 2:30, which I don't know that anybody wanted to hear, but I feel passionately about it, and I gave you 8 minutes on it, so there we are. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube. It's all right there. All right. Jimmy Ott's Game Time coming at you 6 to 8 this evening. Matt Moscona is about to drive you home on After Further Review. Our Friday show tomorrow brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Very much looking forward to that. You'll see us here same time, same place. It's 1 to 3 on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.